Good morning and welcome to another great episode of Money Truth Moments here with Judy Copenbarger. How are you, Judy?
I'm awesome. How you doing, Carlos?
Hey, doing great. It's another beautiful Tuesday morning here in Southern California. Sun's out, heat is up, and we're ready to cook on a great show, right? So let's do this.
I'm ready.
All right, folks, if you're just joining us, welcome to the show. We are here with Judy Copenbarger. If you're not following her, please do so at judycopenbarger.com. We were talking about her website, a lot of the great resources, social media links are also on there as well, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. I want to make sure that we don't run out of time because since last week, we've been talking about married couples and money. It's a hot subject. It's a big subject. And so if you missed last week's show, make sure that you watch the replay. Again, you'll be able to find some of that on judycopenbarger.com. You'll see some of the replays and the videos as well too, links and access to it. So last week we talked about the type of money and decisions that married couples should make together. It was an intense conversation. Judy shared a lot of great wisdom. This week I got another big question for you, Judy, that a lot of folks have been asking, and that is, how do you decide if one spouse should take the lead in managing all finances?
Who should be the boss of the money, huh?
Yeah, that's a fine line on that one, but yeah, folks want to know that.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a tricky question because every couple is different. Every family is different. You know, we bring to a marriage our values, our history, our experiences, all those values that we have around money, all of what we know to be true for us around money. And it's not exactly the same as our spouses because we grew up in a different household with different experiences. So one thing is you got to communicate and come together. But when it comes to who's being the boss, what's tricky about that is money can really represent power. It can represent control, and it can be used, against one another. There's, the money conversation and then the other one. That's a different show, right? But those are the two things. When there's conflict in marriage, it's going to be over those two things. Money is the biggie. That's where divorces happen. That's where separations happen. That's where perfect marital harmony happens as well. And that's what I wish for all of you watching. If you're out there in viewer land, I just wish for you to work toward marital and family harmony around money at all times. So determining who should be the lead is going to take communication. It's going to take a conversation where you decide who has what skills. Maybe you can divide it up, and one of you is better at filing and record keeping in Excel spreadsheets, for your spending plan. Maybe another one is better at being on hold and dealing with the utility companies and all the auto payment, ACHs that you set up at your bank. So there are different skill sets. In the old days, we had paper files in a file cabinet. So there's all of these different skills that one or the other of you might have stronger over the other. And it might be just a matter of delineating them and having a partnership.
So as I'm thinking about this, and it's great. I really appreciate you sharing that too. So what happens in situations? Is there? I don't even know if it's the right wording to use or not. But is there such a thing that when we're deciding this, as who takes the lead, is there a pros and cons as to which person does it the best? I know you talked a little bit about the set of skills. Somebody may be better at doing the Excel sheet. Somebody may be better at filing. But I don't know. Is there such a thing as who should be really the pros and cons of doing it?
Yeah, you've just got to decide who's best at what. In our marriage, it was interesting. At the beginning, I took over because I had more experience in life and money when we first got married. I'd already been on my own a little bit longer than he had. So I took over all the money. Well, there were things that I didn't know, and my lack of experience and our lack of communication skills caused us to have a little conflict around money a couple of times. So he took it over, and then that didn't work. And then I took it over, and then he took it over. I think we went back and forth 10 times in those first 10, 15 years. Now we've settled into a program where I do some things, he does some things, and then some things we do together. And I think it's kind of it's an evolution. It's a process that's going to change over time. But if you always look to what your strengths are, you might just sit down, kind of like running a corporation. A marriage is just like that. When you're running the finances of your household, it could be just like a company. And you don't have a CEO of a company that runs everything, makes every decision and implements everything. Right. If you do, there's no growth. I mean, you can't scale a business like that. But you delegate to people who are good at different things. You hire for that, right? And then you delegate to them where their skills are, where their strengths are, and those are the things that they do.
Awesome. So let me follow up with also, as we're considering this, right? What are some things that can happen in the short run, or let's talk about even the long-term period. So we have the short-term period, halfway through it, and maybe the long-term period.
Well, let's see. In the short term, that's going to be dealing with your expenses, making sure that the bills are paid on time, making sure that there's more money than month every single month, saving money on being overdrawn, saving money on late fees and things like that. That's going to be the short term. If you're saving up for a car, saving up for a house, saving up for a big fancy anniversary trip or a special celebration, that's going to be a short-term goal that's going to require extra money that you save toward that goal. So those are short-term things that you need to work out. In the long term, you're going to have things like retirement, the big 50th anniversary trip, taking all the kids to Hawaii. You're going to have those big bucket goals that you need to work on together. And chances are, if you're a married couple, one or both of you has a retirement plan in place at work. Hopefully both of you have something at work, or you're doing something on your own through your business. So you've got his and hers to coordinate. You've got theirs to coordinate. And then you've got that big number you're going to need. So there might be some accounts that you have that are retirement related that you need to supplement with other accounts that you save toward together. So you're rowing in the same direction. You're clear around those goals, which is an important thing in part of communication. And you know exactly what's going to happen short term as well as long term. And one is not more important than the other. There are some people that are always long-term thinking. They're planning for retirement. They're planning for the rainy day. They're planning for legacy way down the road. And they forget to use some of their money to enjoy life now. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you have people that spend. They use all their money now and they don't really save for later. Both of those ends of the spectrum have some of the right activities in place, some of the right behaviors in place, but it's likely to be costly in the long run because there's no balance in the allocation of those monies. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that actually brings up another very good point that we've discussed this before too, but communication is key, right? It can't be all just one way or one-sided. It's got to be that back and forth communication. That's huge too. I also want to point out too that I'm very grateful at the fact that you share also your personal stories, because folks also, such as myself, it's good to know that, that you also went through all of this, right? It's not like you just all of a sudden were like, boom, and it's done. And I think it's also something that I think as viewers, we connect with you in the respect that, oh man, so it's not just me, right? So that going back and forth, it happens to everyone, but you don't really, you kind of get in that mindset. It's like, is it just us or is it just me that's, not working with this properly? So I appreciate you sharing those personal stories because they mean a lot to our viewers as well too. So thank you.
Yeah, well, my pleasure. And that's where all the wisdom comes from. Not only our mistakes, but I've learned from the mistakes of thousands of clients over the last 40 years. And a lot of those I didn't have to make myself, which is awesome. And then once, people hire us and they get their house in order and keep it that way financially, then they don't make the mistakes anymore. And so we see the value of doing it the right way.
Awesome. Folks, thank you for joining us this morning. I'm here talking with Judy Copenbarger, always gathering all of her wisdom. If you're just joining us and you're not following Judy, please do so at judycopenbarger.com. There is a wealth of information on our website that we're going to get to here shortly. We are talking overall about married couples and money. We've had some great episodes with that, so make sure you watch the restream as well. We're currently talking about deciding who takes the lead in managing money, right? And that's been it's a great topic. We've talked about the short runs and long-term periods. But I think let's go back to the basics. We just got married, or we're planning to get married. If we plan on deciding this type of decision as who takes the lead, you talked about strengths. How do we even get started? there's got to be a base foundation, right? So what would be like best practices or things that, you know, a newbie at this, a new couple coming into this, that they should be, where to start and where to go from?
Yeah, just to have a very simple template or a simple process, the first thing I would do is write down the tasks that need to happen for successful cash flows in a new family that you're creating or have just created. So there are going to be things like paying the bills on time. There are going to be things like retirement planning. There are going to be things like protection. You know, do we have a will? Do we have a trust? Do we have business entities? Do we have insurances for health and life? And are those available through work? What's available through work? What's the menu, right? So getting a hold of the HR or the employer programs that you might have available for you, or through your own business, maybe building out something if it's not there. But just taking a really good assessment of what's available and the tasks that need to happen. Then you can just put a little line on your Excel spreadsheet, right? Just put a little line next to who's going to be doing that. And then set a small goal for by when. So let's say one of the things happens to be around retirement. One of you is a teacher, one of you is an engineer. The engineer is probably in private sector service. So there might be a 401k available, which is a retirement plan for people that are in private employment. For the teacher, there might be a 403b, which doesn't mean anything other than the tax code. Don't worry about the numbers. But it's a tax sheltered annuity retirement supplement program that you can take advantage of, add money to from your payroll deductions to plan for retirement later. Then you might have, in California, we have STRS and PERS and these different programs, pensions that are designed for public employees and teachers and people in the nonprofit sector. So there are things that you can do. So one of those tasks might be for, if it's a married couple, him and her, him to go find out what he's got available at work, and for her to go find out what's available at work. Either ask whoever's in charge of that where you work, or download the menu of options that you have. Often when you onboard at a new company, they'll do all that. And you're so overwhelmed with where am I going to sit and how do I work the copier and who's my assistant, right? You don't think about the benefits. You just need to get in and learn your work. But after you've been there a while, it's probably a good thing to revisit, because usually every year there's a little change, if not a big change, in those benefits that are offered. So the task might be find out what's available and what should we be taking advantage of, and when are we going to come back together and have a meeting about it. And you're treating your marriage, your finances, like a company. So if it was a company, they'd say, everybody go do your work and come back and we're going to powwow about it and decide the next course of action. What's our action items that are coming out of this? And then it might be another thing like, now that we're married, we have maybe life insurance from childhood or life insurance at work where we, put our parents on as beneficiaries. But now we have a spouse, maybe we have children. Who should the beneficiary be now? A lot of people are surprised when they do that to find there's an ex on there. It's like an ex-wife or an ex-husband. It's like, that wouldn't be good, right? Don't die until you fix it. So those are things that you can do. And just having a little action list. What would it take to get our house in order? Who's going to do it? By when are they going to do it? If you don't have a by when, chances are it won't happen unless one of you is really anal and has accountability. But it's an easy thing to put off, because we're doing life. If we've got kids, we're in it. It's just busy time. If you get sleep at all, you're lucky. And if you don't, you're out running around trying to get the kids to their activities on time, make sure they're fed and the homework's done. And their mask is on right now. Right. So all of that, it's easy to put your financial house on the back burner. And I'm encouraging you to bring it up to the front burner. And even if it's overwhelming, at least take little chunks out of it. And maybe it's a 3 or 4 month process to get through all the action plans, all the action items that you have. But you can do it. Just take little bites of that big elephant. And if you're getting married, I suggest that you start before the wedding, pulling all this together. It'll really help take the stress out of that first year that's already a lot of merging happening, right? Yeah.
No, and that's great advice. And I this is the things that folks don't know. We don't know, right? Especially when you're young and you're planning your future and all that, have no clue. It's actually a great segment too, because I do want to take a moment now to really talk about the resources available on your website, judycopenbarger.com. Folks, thanks for joining us. We are having some great conversations. If you're not following Judy, do so at judycopenbarger.com. And it's a perfect timing because she's going to talk a little bit about what are these, about our website and what's available as far as resources. And I will tell you, secret is some of them are free, or most of them are free. So you guys need to really listen to this too. So Judy, share with us what's on your website.
Yeah, lots of free stuff. We love the free stuff. That's part of my legacy, is after doing this for decades with so many families and businesses and ministries, I've learned a lot about how to communicate concepts that help people understand and know better so they can do better. And so I do have a book pertaining to this that talks about how to set goals, what to do early in a marriage, what do you do about insurance and estate planning and cash flows, and how much should I keep in the bank, for cash reserves for that rainy day, right? All of those things. What should I be investing, a stock or a bond, a mutual fund, an ETF? What are those anyway? And if it's bears or bulls, why do I care? And when does it matter to me? So the Money, Truth, and Life book, best-selling book, does that. It goes through all the pillars of finance and explains very simply with visuals and stories what these concepts are and how they might be relevant for you. And I think one thing that I figured out in the last 20, 30, 40 years is relevance. You can go to school and you can get degrees and credentials, and I've done some of that. I've got a bunch of that initials and all that stuff behind my name. But what really matters is when you take all the information you learn, can you make it relevant to your circumstances? Can you make it matter at your house? And that's what really matters. It doesn't matter if you have 14 accounting degrees or, you've been studying tax law for your whole life. If you can't take all that information and turn it into action items, a little checklist for you at your house to optimize your finances in future, then it's not really worth it. I mean, maybe you're doing something technically and making a living doing it. But if the book learning doesn't get from your head to your heart to your hands, and you actually take action at home, it's not going to be as meaningful for you.
And folks, if you're not aware, again, you need to get a copy of this book, life-changing book. Make sure you put it on your shelf, carry it with you. I believe there's also an electronic version, if I'm not mistaken, on Kindle, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can go on anywhere books are sold and you can buy Money, Truth, and Life. It's a best-selling book at Amazon, at Target. You can get it at Books A Million, Barnes & Noble. Anywhere you find any good books, it'll be there. But if you're not necessarily a book reader, the Amazon is the best place I know to get a Kindle version, electronic version. And if you're not a reader at all, and I don't have it on audio, you'll have to read it, have somebody read it out loud to you. But if you don't want to read it, if you're not really a book person, just go to the course. And a lot of that is free right now. So it's the Money, Truth, and Life online mastery program. And there you can watch videos. You don't have to read anything. It's just like YouTube, for any class you want. So you can go to that course and you can watch a class on the difference between a will and a trust and all the different kinds of trusts. Life insurance is a big one. I don't know if I have whole life, if I have permanent life, temporary, universal, index, what do I have and what do I really need? And how much do I need? The salesperson, the insurance guy or the insurance lady, they want you to buy a lot because they're paid commission on how much premium you pay. But how much do you really need and for what purpose? So it goes through all of that. If you like the video format, you're going to love the course. And right now for a week, you don't have to subscribe and sign up and, pay thousands of dollars. It's 7 days, all the classes you can watch, all the courses you want to take for no money. Now, if you want to subscribe after that, I think it's less than a cappuccino at Starbucks, to subscribe for a whole month. If you want to take all of the courses and take notes and really do the worksheets and get into it. But you can go do a test drive for a long time. You could take a lot of classes in a week. Take as many notes as you can. Right there on Money, Truth, and Life online mastery program. Those are there for you. A lot of free stuff.
No, I appreciate that, folks. And again, that's the whole purpose of you guys following Judy. There's a wealth of resources. There's always new stuff on her website as well, too, on her YouTube channel. So make sure that you're following her. One thing that I want to talk about, and again, thank you for joining us this morning. We're talking about married couples and money. We've discussed some great things, who should lead as far as money, some do's and don'ts for sure, a blueprint to get started if you're, when you're about to get married for young couples, and even if you decide to get married later on in life. I think all of this stuff really it's crucial and applies very well too. One thing though that I think that's important to bring up and talk about briefly is, as you're going through this, obviously you need, I guess you need a mentor in the finance world. It's the whole purpose of our Money Truth Moment shows with you to gather some of that wisdom. Tell us some of the things, as you know, not obviously everybody knows what to do with money, how to get started. You talked about the blueprint. But in this world, there is a million finance advisors, that those that tell you this, those that tell you that. One contradicts what the other one's telling you, and all of a sudden your friend tells you, no, but you got to do it this way because I'm doing it this way. And so if you don't know, you get completely overwhelmed. Can you talk a little bit about things that, how should we look at this, from what perspective, and what are the things that we should be looking at?
Yeah, it's tough when you get all that conflicting advice. And the industry is wrought with it. You know, there are so many different perspectives, usually because there's a conflict of interest. Like somebody's going to make money if you hire them for that, or if you buy that product from them or invest with them, whatever. And so you get all this conflicting advice from whoever you talk to. It's also tempting to do whatever your brother-in-law's doing, whatever your neighbor's doing, whatever the guy that sits behind you at church is doing, you know. It's tempting to say, well, they're kind of like us. I'm going to do what they're doing. And you can even go on TV and there's Jim Cramer, the Bears and Bulls guy, Susie Orman, all these financial people that are really entertainers. They have a little bit of financial acumen. The rest is entertainment. The problem with that generic advice is I'm sitting there with my technical background thinking, you know, these are all the people that are watching that, and they're taking that advice to heart, thinking that's exactly what I should do. I need to do it just like that. And I'm thinking of all the ways they can be harmed because they have so-and-so going on in their circumstances. Well, they have this going on. That would not be good advice. If they have this, it's going to blow up that. So that's the problem with generic advice. So to answer how to navigate well, you know, how do you find the right people? I think if you find a fiduciary that by law has to do the right thing and not just sell you something, if you find someone that is a CFP, Certified Financial Planner, that's an expert that has to have gone to college. A lot of initials don't require any education formally, but they have to have gone to college, and then they have to do graduate work after that in all the areas of finance. Taxation, estate planning, all that legal stuff, you know, what is all that? Cash flows, how investments work, economic fundamentals, you know, how to know what's coming. Is it going to be bear or bull market? And how might that impact how I invest and how my goals will be impacted in the future? So if you find a CFP that will work with you, they can work with you on a fee basis or an advisory basis. Be careful with advisory, because if it's advisory, they're still going to be taking a piece of what your investments are earning. So it's kind of like you're sharing your growth with them. So you want to know exactly what you're paying and exactly what services are being delivered to you. It's not a bad thing. You just want to have transparency there. And there's not always full transparency. If you hire a fee planner, full transparency, you'll know exactly what you're paying and exactly what's going to be delivered to you, or you should. Right? So those are some things that might help. If you're fortunate enough to have people in your life that have done it well, they have the business that you want, they have the family that you want, they live in the neighborhood that you want to live in one day, and you can get them to sit down with you for the price of a cup of coffee or two, they will answer your questions. And you can lay out decisions you're about to make, choices you're about to make, and say, here's where I'm going. How am I best going to get there? How can I get where you are? But you want to be careful that when you are getting that advice, it's advice from someone that is well-meaning, someone that is conflict-free, someone that has the right heart, and someone that already has the results that are exactly what you want. And if you do that and you find that mentor that's willing to pour into you and help you out, that's like gold.
That's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. And again, please make sure that if you missed any part of this show, you guys go back and listen to the beginning. There's a lot of great wisdom. There's a lot of great things that Judy's discussed with us, even in the previous shows too, because all of this ties in, folks. There's a whole reason why we do it in the steps that we do it, so you get the best benefit from it and the right advice, or in the right best practices, I should say, for that as well too. So as we're coming to the end of the show, you know what time it is, right? Money Truth Challenge. All right. What's
Time
this?
for a challenge. Here's your challenge.
All
This
right.
is what makes our time together worth it. This is where the rubber meets the road. You get to practice and apply what you've learned. So your challenge this week is to create a SWOT analysis. So if you're in business, that'll make sense to you. SWOT, SWOT, right? If you're not in business, it might be a new term for you. So what SWOT stands for is strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats. So the first two have to do with inside your household. So inside of our household, what are the strengths that we have? If you're a married couple, again, I'm assuming a lot, and I know not all viewers are a married couple, man and woman, right? But if you are a married couple, what are the strengths that you have? What are the strengths that he has or your spouse has? What are the weaknesses? For me, a weakness is going to be Excel spreadsheets. I can do it, but I hate it. I'm slow at it. I don't like it. My eyes go buggy. I can't get the formulas to match. It's just not something I've mastered, not something I want to master. Right? And then he has his strengths too. So we each have some strengths and weaknesses around money things. I'm really good at dealing with bankers. I'm really good at dealing with utilities people, getting the deals, negotiating everything. I love that. He doesn't like to negotiate. He's just like, tell me the price. So I'm the one that buys the cars and does the deals. So we both have different things that we're good at and not so much, right? So those are inside of our marriage. Strengths and weaknesses. So the first two things you're going to write down, pen and paper, are the strengths and weaknesses of both of you. Then we have the outside of the marriage. So from the outside, what are the opportunities that we have? What are the threats that are out there? Now, a threat might be our in-laws share too much. My in-laws or his in-laws share too much, right? The folks are too involved. Maybe you have something going on with a professional relationship. We have family members that are in the business, accountants, lawyers, financial people. And if we do anything outside of them or outside of a family business where they call the shots, that's going to be a problem. The family harmony will be disrupted. That might be a threat. An opportunity might be, Uncle John, he is a gazillionaire. He's always done business right. Midas touch, everything he does, turns to gold. Why don't we sit down with him and find out what he's doing? Maybe we can work with his advisor. Maybe he'll be our advisor. That would be an opportunity outside of your marriage. So write down, pen and paper, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. That's your challenge.
Excellent. And you've heard it, folks. It's another Money Truth Moment challenge. So I want to thank you guys for joining us. If you guys are not following Judy, please do so at judycopenbarger.com. I've also saved a little nugget that we want to share with you guys. It's coming up for next week as well, too. And it's going to be the launch of Judy's podcast. So if you don't catch the show, our Tuesday mornings at 8 a.m., you also have an opportunity to also listen to the Wisdom Money, Truth, and Life podcast, which will be launching on Apple. You can listen to it at your own leisure. It'll be on other streams as well, too, very soon. But make sure that you're going to hear more information about this. And I'm very excited because now we get to take Judy on the road. So on those long trips, man, you can just listen to some wisdom and just chill out, relax, and just, educate yourself with all that. Judy, I want to say thank you again for joining us. Thank you for always sharing your wisdom, being part of your legacy and your journey. I think a lot of us are very grateful that we've never had this, in our lives. And we're a lot better off now that we know these wisdom nuggets that you provide for us. So thank you.
My pleasure.
All right, folks, we will see you here again next Tuesday. Remember, 8 a.m. Money Truth Moments with Judy Copenbarger. Have a great week, Judy.
You as well.